Surprise move, Pakistan invites a team of Indian investigators to go across to carry out our own investigations into the Pathankot attacks. This after they were presented a lot of evidence by India. Unfortunately, Pakistan's biggest ally, China, continues to thwart efforts by India to name Masood Azhar and the Jaish-e-Mohammed as a terrorist group, even as the Chinese president says in the US the terrorist threat is on the rise. Also, Pakistan has not really accepted so far, despite the goodwill on display, that Masood Azhar was indeed involved in Pathankot, which is why we ask, his terrorist is not my terrorist. Will India actually get access to the Pathankot mastermind? Also on the show this Friday evening, a freewheeling sit-down interview with the Director General of the CRPF, R. Durga Prasad, days after 7 of his Jawans were brutally killed in a massive IED blast in Chhattisgarh. I asked the DG some basic questions. Are we really winning the fight against Maoist insurgents? Is the threat of a new generation of even more deadly improvised explosive devices making the war against Naxalites almost impossible to win? And are innocent villagers increasingly trapped in the crossfire between Naxals and security forces? But first, this big story. The Pakistani team, which has been investigating the Pathankot attack carried out by Pakistani terrorists, have genuinely reached out to their Indian counterparts. Or have they? We have to see. What they have said is, come to Pakistan and carry out your own investigations. They say this could be the start of something genuine.
हमने उनसे रिक्वेस्ट की है कि हम इन्हें एक टीम भेजना चाहते हैं. They welcomed the idea. The Pakistan JIT assured us of their full cooperation and promised to execute the LR which has been received by them.
An unprecedented visit by an Indian probe team to Pakistan announced just hours after a team of investigators from across the border wrapped up a first ever such visit to India to probe whether the attack on the Pathankot airbase was carried out by Pak-based terrorists. The probe team that was in India for the last 5 days left for Pakistan today after a limited access to the Pathankot airbase and examining 16 witnesses and voluminous evidence. When Indian investigators probing the Pathankot terror attack will get access to Pathankot is still being worked out. But early this month, India had sent a formal request asking for voice samples of terrorist handlers and access to Jaish-e-Mohammed office bearer Maulana Masood Azhar. Sources have told NDTV India wants leads to be followed up in Pakistan. And by sharing evidence, India wants to prevent Islamabad from saying there is no evidence to show Pak-based terrorists carried out the strike. Indian investigators will soon be in Pakistan, but the status of Masood Azhar is still unclear. And more importantly, the big question is how far will Pakistan go and what kind of access will India get? With camera person Manu Nair and Pooja Arya in New Delhi, Shruti Ranjan Sen for NDTV.
And Shruti Ranjan joins us now for more details on this. Shruti Ranjan, are our investigators hopeful that they will actually get true access to Masood Azhar? That's what it all boils down to, doesn't it?
Well, it actually boils down to that. I mean, whether or not you get access to Masood Azhar, Rauf Asghar and his motley group, because we are very, very clear this attack has been carried out by him. And Masood Azhar, mind you, is not only wanted in this case, he's wanted in several other cases, including the IC-814 case, which still remains unsolved to the extent as to, you know, this entire group was released. Masood Azhar, Omar Sheikh, Zargar Latram, these were all the people who were released. So we want to speak to them. They are our accused in that case. Now, in the discussions that have happened, Pakistan has not overtly contradicted our findings, which is that JEM or Jaish is involved. But they have even, what our sources are saying, that they have not even, said, while they have not contradicted, they have not shown a lot of enthusiasm in saying, yes, this is it. Now, when the team goes to Pakistan, therefore, the big question still remains is, how much of access will it get? And what will it get back? Of course, India's point of view is that give them access, give them the evidence, put them in a situation where Pakistan cannot say there is no evidence. And if they do not act, then mount the diplomatic pressure, then go across the world saying this is what Pakistan is all about, not taking action against terror groups functioning from its body, from its country.
Right. All right, Sudhiranjan, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much for joining us. Will this access that India seeks be genuine? That is the big question. Meanwhile, in the United States, the Prime Minister sent out a strong message to both Pakistan and their greatest ally, China. Drop the notion that terrorism is someone else's problem and that, quote-unquote, his terrorist is not my terrorist.
Terror does not discriminate. Prime Minister Modi sending a powerful and direct message to Pakistan at the Nuclear Security Summit in Washington today. Drop the notion that terrorism is someone else's problem and that his terrorist is not my terrorist. State actors working with nuclear traffickers and terrorists present the greatest risk. And terrorism is globally networked, but we still act only nationally to counter this threat. Prime Minister Modi sat to President Obama's left at the White House dinner and China's Xi to Obama's right. A clear display of strength of two nuclear countries representing 40% of the world's population, but sharply divided interests. My top government sources have told me that this is a clear case of collusion between China and Pakistan. Pakistan using China's mic, so to speak, to extend its cause. Now, what is appalling from India's perspective as well as the global community's perspective is that United Nations had banned Jaish-e-Mohammed back in 2001. So the organization stands labeled as a terrorist organization, yet China has a problem in banning its leader, that's Maulana Masood Azhar.
作为最大的发展中国家和最发达的国家，最大的发达国家，世界第一和世界第二大经济体，我们两国对促进世界和平、维护稳定繁荣，这个负有更加重要的责任。
The United States welcomes the rise of a peaceful, stable, and prosperous China, working with us to address global challenges.
Tomorrow, world leaders will tackle a hypothetical case of Pakistan's battlefield nuclear weapons being stolen by terrorist networks. A danger India's National Security Advisor says the world cannot close its doors on.
All right, so much to discuss. His terrorist, not my terrorist. Will India actually get access to the Pathankot mastermind now that our investigators have been invited to Pakistan? Joining us for more on this, Dr Abhishek Manu Singhvi, Rajya Sabha MP of the Congress, Sambit Patra of the BJP, Kawal Sibal, former Foreign Secretary, and Lieutenant General Talat Masood, the former Defence Secretary of Pakistan. Thank you all very much for joining us. Dr Singhvi, I heard your press conference earlier on in the day. Why do you not see this as a positive move? Why should we be apprehensive? Why should we be negative about this? We can be somewhat apprehensive, but why don't you welcome the fact that finally our investigators will go across?
I think there is far too much of self-congratulatory approach. I think if the price for Indian investigators to go across is, firstly, that the team from Pakistan is invited by us. Within a few days it gives a report which violates a fundamental universal truth that the JEM is involved in Pathankot. They give a report saying they have no connection. Around the same time there is of course this China-Pakistan nexus which prevents JEM from being characterized as a terrorist organization. There is absolutely nothing on the ground by which Pakistan has taken the slightest concrete action against JEM in Pakistan. So then, in this context, to suddenly have these, sudden zigzags, a Jhula opportunity with the Chinese president, a lunch with the Pak Prime Minister, and what is the ground reality? I don't think in all these years we've had Pakistan inspection teams, and there are lots of subtext, lot of validations. Inviting a Pakistan joint investigation team may well be elevating an accused to the status of an investigator at the least. Okay, it may well be validating this distinction which the Pakistanis always make between state and non-state actors, a fundamental point which India has always debunked. there are much larger implications. I don't know how well it has been thought out, how far it has been thought out.
Samit,
How far has
this been thought out?
How much have we got at the end of the day?
Is this all part of the atmospherics that we have seen lately? Do you really expect, Samit Patra, something substantive to happen?
Now, as far as the JIT coming to India is concerned, look, there has been a paradigm shift. And what has changed? Remember 26/11. Immediately after 26/11, two things have happened. I'll be very candid about it. A, Pakistan had denied its involvement or any perpetrator coming from Pakistan. And B, as far as the Indian government is concerned, I'm very sorry to say one of the important functionaries of the then party which was ruling the country, Congress, Mr. Digvijay Singh, had gone to Mumbai and released a book saying 26/11 RSS ki sajish. So that was the kind of strategy of the then government. Neither Pakistan was agreeing to the fact that they were the ones who were perpetrators, nor the government then in India was in fact pushing their weight against Pakistan. They were busy in domestic politics. What has changed now after Pathankot? Pakistan immediately agrees to the fact that, well, yes, perpetrators have come from their soil. More investigation needs to go into it. Punishment needs to go to the people who have in fact planned and given rise to this dastardly act. There are two things. A, there is a legal requirement. The aim of this government is to see to it that the ones who perpetrated the Pathankot attack should be punished in the most severe way. How does that happen? A, if you fulfill the legal requirements, the legal requirement anyone across the world is, if you want certain people to get punished, then the crime scene has to be attended to. A, remember that it's not that the investigation is being carried out by JIT. The JIT has only come to India to gather evidences which we would provide, and secondly, we'll have limited access to areas of crime commission, that is the crime scene. They're not the investigative agencies who are going to lead our way. Secondly, across the newspapers, though I am not privy to any kind of information that the government may be having, that the NIA may be having, we should not be having those informations with us, but across the newspaper the talk is the JIT could not open its mouth in front of the NIA. After looking into the technical and the scientific non-refutable evidences that was submitted by the NIA, the JIT was speechless. Isn't this a different beginning?
You know, in fact,
and thirdly, let me tell you, what is our spec? Just this 10 seconds, Vishnu, 10 seconds, last 10 seconds. Look, what is the worst fear that we all have? The worst fear is, well, nothing will happen. As usual, Pakistan will behave as the Pakistani dispensation. That is, throw the evidences into dustbin and say, no, no one is responsible. Well, if that happens, if we have done what we have done because we have nothing to hide, we can at least call the bluff of Pakistan in the international arena. Look, we cooperated, we gave them every kind of assistance, but this is what Pakistan is. Now let us do what we want to do.
Okay. Dr. Singhvi, you had a point to make, or you disagree?
No, I totally disagree for the simple reason that apart from doing Congress bashing and talking of Digvijay Singh in 26/11, the only substantive point made is what? What is the deliverable you got? The deliverable you got is a rejection by this team of any involvement of JEM within a few days. The deliverable you got is that JEM will take no action against...
The latest information we are now getting is that they're not actually saying that as directly as perhaps they did a few days back. They have not ruled out a link to Masood Azhar. So shouldn't you wait before saying...
No, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why we shouldn't wait. Pakistan is doing on three fronts. I mean, look at the irony. One, in the UN front, this very organization, this very Masood Azhar, with Chinese nexus. Second, within the country, not a small finger raised. What is the concrete action taken against this gentleman in Pakistan? And third, not rule out. I mean, do we need a legitimation or a certificate from a Pakistani team? Did these perpetrators drop from the sky?
Okay,
the whole world knows it came from Pakistan.
Okay.
Do we need?
I just want to go across.
Can I have 10 seconds?
No, 1 second, Samit. I want to go across to my other panelists. Ambassador Sibal, the fact that Pakistan produced who they claim to be a serving Indian naval officer, a spy, at a time when this investigation was taking place in Pathankot, is this game of tutu meh still continuing? The message from Pakistan perhaps being, as you talk about terrorism, here is a person we believe is an Indian terrorist. If this analysis is correct, then can we actually expect anything substantive? Or does the game continue?
Well, I think you're right. because they are playing this up in a very big way. This was announced in a joint press conference by the Minister of Information and Broadcasting and the spokesman of the military, in order to show that the military and the civilian side were both on the same page with regard to accusations of India's interference in Balochistan. And the timing was very strange, because if the whole idea on the Pakistani side at the level of the NSAs is to deal with these issues in a mature manner and not try and get immediate publicity and whip up public passions on such issues, then what they have done is totally against that understanding, quite apart from the fact that analysis shows that this particular videotape is very questionable. Their Foreign Office has again made a very strong statement that they are going to now continue to lobby with international capitals to show that India is intervening in Balochistan. So they are working at cross purposes. We are getting very mixed messages from Pakistan. Okay. And at the same time, when Pakistan, the SIT comes here and wants to demonstrate their good faith in trying to get at the root of this terrorist attack, they get China at the last minute to block the designation of Masood Azhar as a terrorist, despite the fact, as you rightly said in your introduction, that his organization has been on the terrorist list of the United Nations a long time ago. So it clearly means that they are not going to act against the Jaish-e-Mohammed chief. At best, they may act against some low-lying figures of low importance, and this will give them a lot of return, of positive return. That's why they are doing it, because this shows they will demonstrate to the international community, because they are coming under pressure and international opinion is becoming very sensitive with regard to terrorism after the attacks in Europe, that they are cooperating.
Okay.
And they will also be able to demonstrate that they, at the state level, they are not involved.
Okay.
And at the state level, they are willing to cooperate to see which non-sectors are in.
Ambassador Sibal, I just want to go across to General Talat Masood. I'll come back to you, sir, in a moment from now. I just want to go across to my guest from Pakistan. Sir, the fact that China seems to be saying two different things. On the one hand, Xi Jinping today said the terrorist threat is on the rise. On the other hand, when it comes to Masood Azhar, they blocked him being declared an international terrorist. Isn't this doublespeak from your closest ally?
Absolutely not. Actually, the fact is that we have to wait till such time that anything is proved. And that is why Pakistan government is now cooperating fully with you and is trying to see to what extent, if there is any involvement, which it may well be, we don't rule that out. And that is the only reason why Pakistan is very sincerely sort of trying to advance on this case and try to find out the facts. And once the evidence is there, if it is proved that he was involved and he in person was also involved, his organization or militant organization was involved, they will definitely take action against them. But in order to, but you can't really precede all that and just declare them, you know, in a way that
you think. But sir, the UN has banned the Jaish-e-Mohammed in 2001.
Well, I mean, that may well be in such a way that Pakistan does not necessarily have to accept that. So that is a different matter. I mean, was it an obligation?
So Pakistan doesn't, you believe,
compulsory?
accept that the Jaish-e-Mohammed is a terrorist group?
Well, I wouldn't like to sort of comment as what the government thinks about it. What I feel is that the government, if it thinks that it is involved in cases like what you are trying to say, and it has evidence and it is satisfied, it will definitely ban it, but not prior to that. And then why are you not understanding that such a serious thing India was doing against Pakistan? This spy was caught red-handed. He was not just a spy. He was trying to sort of undermine Pakistan's Balochistan situation.
So why has India not been given any consular access to this person you call a spy?
Well, I mean, a person who is engaged in subversive activities, maybe they give consular access subsequently, but at this moment they are investigating. So I think you have to wait.
General Masood, with all due respect, sir, you've been in the Pakistani army for so many decades. Don't you think that this person was singing like a parrot, sir? He just came out with he just came out with wonderful delivery of this entire account. I mean, it's as easy as that.
For goodness sake, you know, why was he in Pakistan? Let me ask you the first question.
A lot of Indians are asking, why was he in Pakistan? Because there is a sense over here he may have been picked up in a third country, sir.
Well, I mean, you can't be so innocent about it. I mean, for goodness sake, don't throw dust in our eyes. I mean, after all, he hasn't been brought from from anywhere else but from Balochistan, because he was thinking, he had become so bold that he was operating in Balochistan because he thought he had certain people around him who would give him protection. But
so there is one factual error that we can tell you, sir, General Masood. He is not a serving officer. He had been with the Indian Navy, right, at a certain period of time. He is, according to our defense minister, due for financial dues as a retired officer, as an ex-serviceman. So this is a fact, sir. He's not a serving officer. So when he says that he is, that's not right, sir. We also speak to the defense forces on a regular basis, sir. It's the first question that we asked, and they said no. He was an officer. He's not an officer anymore.
Well, Pakistan thinks it's a question of obvious denial. You know, you wouldn't like to admit that he is a serving officer. This is exactly what happens when he is caught in such a way, which is very embarrassing. You always say, okay, well, you distance yourself. So I think that is what the logic you are pursuing. So we understand that, but we know what the facts are, because we know. So I think we need to sort of very cool-headedly try to understand that you have been trying to damage and destabilize Balochistan. That has been your open policy, and now of course we have some evidence which is very embarrassing.
General Masood,
so you are
isn't
trying
it
to
rather odd that in an international forum like what is happening in the United States now, of course the Pakistani Prime Minister couldn't attend, the issue of the spy has not been raised even once?
Well, I think they don't want to vitiate their environment.
Right.
They could do that because this conference is something different. You know, Pakistan, despite all what India is doing, has been trying its best and utmost to have, you know, working and a reasonable relationship with India.
Okay.
And our Prime Minister, despite all odds, has been going out of his way to improve relations with India. I think you can't doubt his sincerity.
Yep.
And in that a situation like this arises, you know, he is really embarrassed.
Sambit Patra, would you like to come in over here? It is a fact that Nawaz Sharif has reached out to India. Yes, there may be mixed signals, but there are some signals which are positive. So should we not focus on that at this stage?
First and foremost, I was listening to the Pakistani guest back now. Sorry, I don't have a television in front of me, so I could not know who he was, in fact. But I would say, with all due regards, that... Okay, sir. But I would say, with all due regards, this is what we call in India the devil quoting the scriptures.